Every alligator surfaces on the water, and not every pain can be hidden beneath a smile. Troy Landry, the icon of swamp people, the invincible king of the swamp, is now facing an enemy that guns and bullets cannot defeat: time, illness, and a tragedy even he dares not name. Behind the catchphrase, "Shoot 'em," are desperate prayers, sleepless nights at the ICU, and tears no one sees. This is not an episode. This is a true story. And it begins when the legend Troy Landry quietly collapses. On a May morning in 2022, Troy Landry sat alone behind the wheel of his truck, feeling something unmistakably changing in his body. Unusual fatigue, difficulty urinating, a gnawing sensation, like a leech burrowing deep inside. It wasn't something a gator hunter typically worried about, but this time, his instincts were right. After a routine checkup urged by his wife Bernita, who was more attuned to her husband's health than he was, Troy was ordered to undergo a prostate biopsy. The result: cancer. Not only that, the tissues were completely eroded. The tumor had taken over nearly the entire gland, and time was running out.
Bring 'em up! Bring 'em up!
He didn't say much, just nodded and went home. But for the first time in years, Troy left the swamp before hunting season. No one in the Swamp People crew or film team knew. Even Jacob, his son, only found out when he noticed his father didn't take the boat out the next morning. He didn't talk. He just quietly disappeared from the hunting schedule. Jacob shared, "For my dad, weakness isn't allowed to exist, even in the face of cancer." On June 1, 2022, Troy went under the knife. The surgery took place at Baton Rouge Hospital, led by Dr. Alexander. His entire prostate was removed. In the medical records, the remaining tissue was deemed no longer functional, but it was Troy himself who first shared it publicly, posting a photo from his hospital bed, still gripping the IV line, with a brief caption, "No more prostate. It was ate up with cancer." The Swamp People fan base was stunned into silence. Never had such a raw, personal update come from Troy. The man who faced 300-pound alligator jaws without flinching was now battling a disease attacking from within. In the days following the surgery, Bernita and Jacob took turns updating his recovery status. A video posted by Jacob in mid-August showed the old man walking slowly in the backyard, still forcing a smile. "Each day is a smaller step than usual, but it's a step back toward the swamp," Jacob said, choking back emotion. For someone like Troy, recovery wasn't about hospital checkups. It was about getting back on the boat, and that's exactly what he did, despite everyone saying it was too soon. In September 2022, just 3 months post-surgery, he reappeared in footage for Swamp People Season 14. His eyes were as sharp as ever, scanning the water's surface, hand ready on the trigger, and the "shoot 'em" call delivered without a moment's hesitation. The film crew was initially shocked, then silent. No one dared ask directly. They just worked, capturing the most ordinary moments in a hunting season that felt far from ordinary. The audience, nonetheless, noticed. When the first episode aired, fans immediately saw it. Troy was different. He spoke less, moved slower, and in one close-up shot, viewers could clearly see the scar peeking through his thin shirt. But instead of negative reactions, the audience was moved. On social media, thousands of comments called him a silent warrior. Posts from the Swamp People fan page shifted from entertainment to tribute. SurvivorNet, a platform tracking the journeys of public figures battling cancer, called Troy an example of facing the fight head-on. Their article quoted him directly. "I never thought I'd have to fight in a hospital. But if I need to shoot, I'll shoot." Just this time, the gun's not in my hand. And as Troy began returning to daily life, training his body, eating meals again, hunting smaller gators, he didn't know that, in another hospital room, a tiny life in his family was about to begin its own life-or-death battle. But this time, he could do nothing to help. Grandson in critical condition. On July 13, 2024, at a small Louisiana hospital, Troy Landry's grandson, baby boy Crew Hawtard, was born unexpectedly. Alarms blared in the delivery room as doctors detected something wrong. Crew was delivered via emergency C-section, weighing just over 2.5 kilograms, blue and unable to feed. But that was only the beginning. Less than 2 weeks after birth, the family received devastating news. Crew had biliary atresia, a rare congenital condition. Doctors explained that the bile ducts in his liver weren't functioning, causing bile to build up and destroy the liver from within. Despite undergoing a Kasai procedure, a life-saving surgery for infants, with the condition, Crew didn't respond. His liver began to fail. Bilirubin levels soared. His breathing grew weaker. Troy Landry was out in the swamp at the time, wrapping up early season shoots for Swamp People Season 16. He returned home to the news his grandson needed to be transferred immediately. There was no time for tears. The family of Brandon Hawtard, Troy's stepson, raised as his own, rushed Crew by ambulance to Texas Children's Hospital in Houston. There, Crew was placed in isolation, hooked to machines. His vitals worsened daily. In January 2025, he was officially added to the liver transplant waiting list with a severity score of 31, a number high enough for priority, but also a sign his liver was dying. The family couldn't wait in silence. They partnered with the Children's Organ Transplant Association to create quota for Crew H, a fund to cover prolonged treatment, medications, and transplant costs. Troy Landry, for the first time in his TV career, posted not a swamp photo, but an image of his tiny grandson in an incubator, surrounded by tubes, breathing equipment, and eyes still barely open. His caption read, "He's fighting harder than any gator I've ever seen, and I can't do a thing about it." The fan community was rocked. A wave of shares spread. Those who once loved Troy for his chudum now prayed for Crew minute by minute. But the miracle hadn't come. On February 19th, the hospital reported a potential donor liver, but it was ultimately incompatible. By March 2025, Crew's PELD score rose from 31 to 33, his condition worsening. Brandon, Shelley, and Troy took turns staying in Houston, nearly abandoning all personal activities. Each night, Grandpa Troy posted a short Facebook update. Still waiting. No one said it aloud, but everyone knew Crew's time was running out hour by hour. Fans from everywhere sent encouragement. One who met Troy in person wrote, "He shook my hand, asked how I was living. Now, if I could hold his hand again, I'd tell him, 'You taught me what resilience means. And I'm praying for Crew like he's my own child.'" As of May 2025, Crew is still alive but remains in critical condition. While the nation prayed for his grandson, another truth was quietly exposed, and this time it was Troy himself in the spotlight. Hunting tag scandal. Less than 3 months after Troy Landry publicly called for prayers for his critically ill grandson, he unexpectedly became the center of an investigation by authorities for a seemingly minor but damaging violation, one that threatened the law of the swamp image he'd built over a decade. The incident occurred at Lake Palourde, St. Mary Parish, Louisiana, during the early alligator hunting season, as Swamp People began filming Season 16. According to an official statement from the Louisiana Department of Wildlife and Fisheries, LDWF, they received an anonymous tip about boats illegally tagging alligators in Lake Palourde. A task force promptly set up surveillance cameras and monitored for 2 days. On the morning of September 19th, they captured footage of Troy Landry and 2 others, including a cameraman, pulling an alligator from an unpermitted area. The evidence was undeniable. Troy was summoned immediately. At first, he denied it, claiming the alligator got caught in a line from another boat. But when LDWF presented aerial video footage, Troy admitted to harvesting and mistagging. He was even accused of cutting a tag from a dead alligator and discarding its body to cover his tracks, a serious violation of the state's wildlife traceability regulations. 2 formal charges were filed: illegal tagging in an unpermitted area and intentionally discarding a dead alligator to evade inspection. Each charge carries a potential fine of up to $950 and 120 days in jail. Additionally, the boat and motor he used were seized on the spot. The investigation stated the case would go to local court with a hearing scheduled for January 2025. Troy's response: as shocking as the incident itself. In a brief interview with WAFB TV, when asked about the incident, he said only, "I also got a speeding ticket last month. I have nothing to say about it." The cold, dismissive reply was like a slap to the trust of millions of fans who saw him as a model of integrity, not just for the cameras, but for professional ethics. But some loyal fans defended him. On social media, comments expressed sympathy, suggesting Troy was under immense pressure from his grandson's illness or possibly set up by jealous rivals. Some called for leniency, citing his extraordinary circumstances. Notably, the Swamp People production team issued no public statement, no filming halt, no episode cuts. Throughout Season 16's production, Troy appeared regularly, rifle in hand, alongside his sons and young hunters. Everyone seemed to choose silence. Some media experts suggested this was strategic if the scandal wasn't too severe. Amplifying it could backfire. But whether the media downplayed it or the public forgave, the scratch on his honor remained. It raised the question, is Troy Landry still an untouchable icon, or is he just a man, capable of mistakes and falls? To understand why, we must return to where it all began. Swamp roots. He was born in Pierre Part, a small community in Louisiana, where the Atchafalaya Basin, the largest swamp in America, surrounds every road, every sleep. His family, the Landrys, were a clan tied to the swamp's lifeblood for at least 5 generations. His father, Duffy Landry, wasn't an office dad, but a gator hunter, shrimp fisherman, moss gatherer, and sometimes lumberjack. His mother, Myrtle Landry, managed the home while rowing to set traps. Troy grew up without a TV, without malls. His childhood was the croak of frogs at night, the smell of drying gator hides, and iron hooks glinting in the morning sun. At 12, Troy followed his father into the swamp's heart, learning what he called the Cajun school of life. No books, no curriculum, just one rule: hunt by the law. Or you die, or get caught. And he learned fast. His father taught not with words, but with nods, glances, and rituals of loading ammo or tagging gators. The Landrys kept no diaries. Each season was recorded in scars, bent hooks, and near-death moments in swirling waters. The community Troy grew up in was unlike anywhere else. No supermarkets, no unwritten rules except those forged by nature and survival. In that setting, Troy Landry was shaped reserved, tough, not one for small talk, but never one to break a promise. In 1981, at 21, Troy married Bernita Landry, a woman unlike him. Bernita was educated, a former teacher, then a bank teller, and later a communications manager for History Channel. But their differences made a perfect balance. They had 2 sons, Jacob and Chase, and a stepson from Bernita, whom Troy raised as his own. Even if he didn't speak much of feelings, those around him saw it clearly. Family was the one thing that could make him drop his gun, even mid-season. For Troy, teaching his kids to hunt wasn't about legacy. "I don't teach them to kill something," he once said in a cut Swamp People clip. "I teach them not to get killed. In the swamp, or in life. But time doesn't pause. Concrete roads replaced swamp paths. Alligators were hunted for leather and meat markets, not survival. And Troy, no matter how hard he fought, couldn't resist that tide. Perhaps that's why he joined TV to preserve what was vanishing daily, the raw life of a true Cajun. Still, the camera's light didn't just capture beauty. It exposed flaws, too. And when swamp people brought Troy Landry to millions, his life was no longer his own. Portrait of a Legend. In 2010, History Channel launched Swamp People's first season, chronicling the alligator hunting lives of Louisiana swamp families. Troy Landry, with his son Jacob, was chosen as a central figure for his authentic character and elite hunting skills. To locals, bringing cameras into hunting boats was madness, but Troy agreed. No one predicted the phenomenon he'd become. His stern face, gravelly Cajun drawl, and the way he yelled, "Shoot 'em" as gators surfaced, went viral. The phrase landed on t-shirts, mugs, billboards, and even a mobile game, "Shoot 'em, Angry Swamp," from a man who lived outside the spotlight. Troy became a brand. His per-episode pay, starting at a few $1,000s, hit $25,000 by Season 5 plus royalties. The Landry family appeared at outdoor sports expos, hunting shows, and became ambassadors for Savage Arms, with the Landry signature rifles inspired by Troy. But glory wasn't one way. With their lives filmed 24/7, internal pressures mounted. Chase, Troy's youngest, briefly left the show, citing loss of personal control. Crew members admitted no week passed without Troy being asked to reshoot action scenes for more drama. Alligators didn't follow scripts, but TV did. Swamp People's success also crowded the Atchafalaya Basin. Tourists flocked. Investors arrived. Troy once said in a brief interview, "There were places I hunted alone for 30 years. Now I need permission to film there." Even hunting, once a sacred trade, lost its sanctity as some local hunters staged scenes or herded gators for thrill. Troy never approved, but he couldn't stop the commercialization wave. Personally, he felt the toll: declining health, less family time. "Some years, I only ate at home 3 days during hunting season," he recalled. Still, no matter how swamp people evolved, one thing stayed constant: the audience's loyalty to Troy. In every popularity poll, he topped the list. Meet and greets at expos ended with long lines for photos, handshakes, or just to hear his old hunting tales. Troy wasn't an action hero. He was a hero of truth, something TV increasingly lacks. That's why, when the 2024 legal scandal hit, many believed it was an honest mistake, not greed. They trusted his core, a hunter before a TV star. But no one stays at the peak forever. Hunting seasons end, cameras turn off, and the bigger question, what he leaves behind, matters more than any contract. Legacy passed down. Season 16 of Swamp People, airing in January 2025, was no longer a one-man show. Troy remained the leader. But for the first time, he split the precious hunting tags, seasonal permits, among his son Chase, grandson Callum Landry, and young hunter Cheyenne Pickle Wheat. A small act, but profound, passing down the right to hunt and teach. He doesn't yell "shoot 'em" as much anymore, a crew member shared. Now he steps back, watches others act, then gives feedback, gentle but on point. Not everyone is born to mentor, but for Troy, it came as naturally as learning from his father, Duffy Landry, in the wild swamp years ago. Outside Swamp People, he rarely left Pierre Part. Once, a network offered him a spot on a global survival show. He declined flat out. "They want me to leave the swamp to survive somewhere else. I'm surviving here. No need to try more." Off-screen, Troy was far from his TV image, often in a striped Ralph Lauren polo. Few knew Bernita bought dozens of the same shirt, so he wouldn't have to choose each morning. It wasn't habit, it was identity. In a world changing too fast, Troy clung to the familiar. On his Facebook, he posted regularly hunting shots, family dinners, updates on crew's condition. Though his Instagram shut down after the tag scandal, his page still drew over 1.3 million followers. In an early 2025 post, he wrote, "My son's doing better than I did back then. Pickle's fearless. Callum reads the net like it speaks to him. I don't need to do much anymore." No retirement announcement, but everyone knew Troy was stepping back to make room for the next generation. He didn't do talk shows, write memoirs, or shoot ads. But anyone visiting Louisiana's swamps knew mention alligators. And you mentioned Troy Landry. But there's a legacy no camera captures, unmeasurable by views or sponsorships. It's the love Troy Landry leaves behind, quiet as swamp water, but seeping into everyone who crosses his path. That legacy isn't in hunting tags, shoot 'em, or mobile games. It's what no one forced him to do. Still he did silently. Though he lived in the wild, Troy never let his heart grow savage. He entered life with a hunter's sturdy steps, but faced every crisis with the soul of a grandfather, father, and husband who put family first. One day, Troy may stop hunting, but his love quiet, needing no praise, will live on in the memories of those he leaves behind. Troy Landry will always be the swamp's guardian, not with a gun, but with love. Have you ever watched Swamp People? What do you think makes Troy Landry a living legend? Share your thoughts, and don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more stories that touch the heart, just like this man.